The trouble with a lot of sports science research is just trying to get participants.
Because it's a gum and it's being chewed, does it get absorbed faster than if you ingest it?
I think it's relatively similar. This is a really good example of the design. I think the dose is great. I think the timing is terrible.
Mistakes happen later in the game from this type of thing.
What's up, gang? We're looking at this month's research review. This was the one that people said was the most interested. I don't know if we had any comments on it, but we had a few DMs, and internally with the team, we wanted to check this out. So that's where we're at. So this one was on the effects of caffeine.
Effects of caffeine on mental fatigue in basketball performance. We don't have any basketball background.
No, we got no. Oh no, we do.
Yeah, only down the end, yeah. Yeah, the Larry Bird.
Larry Bird and Allen Iverson there. We're repping it. We're in the soccer area at the moment. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the research article and go through it now and break it down.
All right, so this study is crossover study. It's a randomized double-blind crossover design. So the crossover design means that all participants go through each intervention so that they experience all, and then the results accumulated from all of the participants doing each intervention. So there's 4 intervention types that they had with this study. So it was the no mental fatigue with placebo gum, mental fatigue with placebo gum, no mental fatigue with caffeine gum, and mental fatigue with caffeine gum. Sessions were separated by 1 week as like a washout period, and the mental fatigue was induced through a 30-minute Stroop task and the caffeine gum of 50 milligram per piece. And it's not telling us exactly how much, so we might need to look a little bit further down into the methods as to exactly the dose there. That's a good thing to discuss later. And it was administered 15 minutes prior to performance testing. So another thing we can have a look at. The power and skill performance were assessed via vertical jump height, as well as V-cut dribbling test, medicine ball throw, and a stationary 2-point shooting with 3 attempts per test. Anything you want to add onto the methods here?
Like the sample size is pretty small. It was like this with a previous study that we've reviewed as well. But the thing to keep in mind when it comes to sports science, whenever you have huge, large cohorts, the end number is going to be pretty small. We're just limited by participants. It's hard to get people doing this. A lot of the time, they're not going to be like amazing athletes. It's not speaking to the level. It just says like they're recreationally trained male basketball players. Like, does that mean they're playing the rec league? Like, they're playing once or twice a week? Like, there's some things that we'd like to standardize for, but the trouble with a lot of sports science research is just trying to get participants. So
Like having a wider net.
yeah, but this is a really good example of the design. I think the dose is great. I think the timing is terrible.
The thing that I was going to ask, and I'm not 100% sure, I have to look it up, is because it's a gum and it's being chewed, does it get absorbed faster than if you ingest it?
I think it's relatively similar. They're both oral.
No, more like meaning like the time to effective, I guess.
It's still 44 to 80 minutes with gum in a particular paper. Yeah.
Sweet. So that's the biggest limitation here.
Yeah.
Which is probably like a big limitation overall of this study is like, how do you induce mental fatigue and then have caffeine come in without doing it afterwards? And then if you have a break in between that time that you...
I think it's like, aren't they doing the mental fatigue over a 30-minute period?
Yeah.
So wouldn't you just have a typical...
Prior to doing it?
Yeah.
Is there any confounding factors where like maybe you're getting some benefits during the mental fatigue task or...
But it's not being measured anyway.
Okay.
So like for me, it would just be like, from a design perspective, I think we've got like that. So look, we've had a look through the caffeine administration, the training of participants, which is great, the functional test assessment. I think that's good. Lower body explosive power, I don't think that's good. Like, we're talking about like mental fatigue performance and like mental performance. I don't see...
I think they're also looking at the effect on power.
Oh, okay. So it's they're measuring both that. Yeah. V-cut dribbling test is good. Change of direction T-test. I don't know if that's that great. And then we'll get into like the statistics and the results from there. So I'll hand over to you to sort of discuss that.
So I guess the results of the Stroop test, that there was a decrease in their RT1, RT2, which is their response time compared to their pre-testing values. So that is indicating that there was mental fatigue induced by the Stroop test, which is exactly what it was designed for. So that's good to see. And then from there, there was actually no significant differences between a lot of the conditions. So this is for the Stroop test itself and just showing the on average slower response times, which is what it should be doing. And then for the skills and physical performance afterwards, the mental fatigue significantly reduced tasks requiring explosive power and dynamic coordination. So there is an impact of mental fatigue for power and cognitive abilities in what you would expect for a basketball game just from these drills. So I guess in context, this would be looking at like you getting towards the end of the game, and not only have you got physical fatigue, but you probably got mental fatigue. And this is when this is going to come into like those that potentially supplementing, although this didn't have any effect, but we'll discuss potentially why. But this is where you're going to see that mistakes happen later in the game from this type of thing. What we saw was, so there was 2 tests where the performance decrease was statistically significant. And that was the vertical jump height. So the no mental fatigue and the mental fatigue condition with the placebo were significantly different. The jump height after the mental fatigue was significantly lower. Similarly, in the V-cut test, the time to complete after the mental fatigue was significantly slower for those 2 conditions. However, with the caffeine gum, there were no significant improvements across the board with the caffeine gum, even with an ergogenic dose. So they are like the main findings. There's obviously more in here if you want to read the whole paper, but they're the big ones that have come out from this based on the testing that they've done. I suppose the thing to discuss about that, I'll hand over to you because there's a very glaring thing that we've already kind of mentioned.
Yeah, it's the timing of the caffeine intervention. So looking at the research, it says, like peak caffeine concentrations typically occur within about 40 minutes. We can link an additional paper through, I think it was a 2020 paper. It gets cited a fair bit. I'll just have a look at it now. 2018 one, and then there's articles in 2020 and stuff. So I'll link the 2018 paper so that way we've got that. So it's basically half the amount of time, but it's still 84 minutes down to 40 minutes or 44 minutes. So like you've got that. I think like waiting finishing the drill and then spending 15 minutes on it, like giving it to them and then 15 minutes and then going again while they're still fatigued. I don't think that's the best way to approach it. If you're going to experience that or look to test it just based on the pharmacokinetics of caffeine. But outside of that, I didn't really have anything else on it.
No, it doesn't look like. It only showed that the mental fatigue affected the vertical jump height and the V-cut. And as Alex mentioned in like the physical testing, a lot of them probably aren't too relevant to actually see those decreases in performance, but those 2 definitely have a high power and a high skill component, which is probably why they were the only ones that showed the performance decrease here.
And the other thing as well is like basketball, because I used to play it competitively at like pretty decent levels, and like I would still play it now recreationally if my knee was healthy. But it's one of these things where like repetition helps. You like say you're getting multiple shots at your 2-point shooting, you're getting like dribbles and stuff. Like it's almost like, yes, you can be mentally fatigued, but if you're not mentally exhausted and we're just doing some form of like imparting some form of mental fatigue on the subjects, and yes, it's quantitative mental fatigue, but it's not to a certain threshold and not crossing that threshold to like actual exhaustion. Shooting 2-point shots and dribbling drills and stuff, like they're not really hard. Like if you were doing like deep threes and then you were measuring the the gradient of the miss, like how many missed, how wide the misses were, that type of stuff where the skill really comes into it. I think that would probably show it more if the dribbling drills were like quite complex, like a Steph Curry type dribbling drill. Like that's going to be some stuff, like he's like dribbling and stuff and he's got to catch tennis balls and do all this crazy stuff. Like that is probably where it's going to show. And we don't know. There's no videos of what the drills were. It just says like, these are the types of drills that they were doing and there's a description. But I think like it's one of these things where like basketball is a rhythm thing. So if you can establish a bit of a rhythm with what you're doing, then your skill that almost improves with the rhythm. And it's something that like a lot of basketball players learn to do under like certain fatigue anyway, like under a certain level of fatigue. So if you're a recreational player and you're just relatively unfit, but you play, it's almost like, okay, I've been playing for half an hour. It's like you're sort of used to it. Yeah, you're tired and stuff, but your skill doesn't really drop off too much. They're used to it. It's like, oh, I get into rhythm as I'm going and stuff. Now, if you get them doing like suicide drills and X amount of stuff like at NBA pace, and then you're getting like the rec league guys do it, they're going to be gassed. Then we can really look at it. So I think it's like the thing for me is some of the skills are probably not skill assessments are not set up to or take that rhythm component out of it, where you can get yourself into a rhythm. And then the other thing is the caffeine timing. Those are the two big ones for me.
Yeah, I think the papers reported a previous study from Barami and colleagues from 2020 that they had 3-point shooting accuracy that had reduced after the mental fatigue stuff. So that supports what you were saying just there.
Yeah, and especially like imagine if it was like deep threes, like Steph Curry range threes, like not just a regular 3-point.
Yeah, halfway.
Yeah, it's like, the variance of the misses would be even greater. So I think that's pretty much it from my end with it. Like it's interesting and stuff. And like at the end of the day, research like this just helps push the field further forward, because, it's not like we're sitting here being like caffeine isn't going to give us anything. It's like, oh, it's a bit of I'm not going to say nothing study, but like it helps us confirm what we would think.
Yep.
Which sounds very unscientific when you think about it, like not evidence-based, but it's like
supports the logic that you would think.
Yeah. With that stuff, like you would think that if you didn't dose caffeine within 40 minutes, and that if you were doing more like 2-point and lower skill things that you could like that were rhythmic based, your rhythm would give you better opportunity to keep going well with, that you probably wouldn't see a performance decrement from mental fatigue, and you probably wouldn't see a performance increase from caffeine ingestion at the 15-minute mark.
So I guess to finalize the review of this study is basically what we want to see is a similar setup, but with better timing of the ergogenic aid for caffeine, so that we can see that it is actually at its peak blood content, and then we're getting the actual ergogenic benefits from it. And then that's going to actually give you a good idea if the caffeine will work. Because at the moment with this study, we have a feeling that caffeine could work because there was a slight improvement, even though it wasn't statistically significant. However, dosed at the right level, but not at the right time, means that we can't really take much away from it other than, say, put the dosing at the right time in the future. If you like this, stay tuned for monthly research reviews and get involved on Instagram to let us know which ones you want to hear about.
Thanks, guys.